think I made a mistake today by watching your interview with Glenn Beck because I'm like, oh, dang, there's no way I can interview you like Glenn Beck. And that's
Oh,
just kind of like, I'm like, okay, come on my podcast now and talk to me. But man,
yeah,
I'm just glad we could work this out. I got to see
I
you.
am too. It's
Yeah,
just with Beck, it was like talking to a friend, and talking to you is like talking to a friend. So
yeah, I
I don't
appreciate
see
that. I
any
appreciate
difference
that.
there.
Yeah, I got to see you do your set in Tulsa just a few months ago, and that was super fun. I came with a couple guys with me that are aspiring comedians and doing pretty well on the circuit. And they just had great things to say about you. It was nice of you to hang out with them and talk to them. And we have a history that goes back to I don't know when we first met each other or did
I
an
think it was
event together.
for the Christian Collegiate Athletic Association with Dan.
Yeah, so that would have been maybe 4 or 5 years ago,
Oh,
but
it
even
was
before
before
that
COVID
though.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, probably 2018, 2019. But I feel like that we met each other on the road back in the day because you were I don't know. Well, that's something I definitely want to get into.
We may have. I'm a self-centered twit, so I probably wouldn't remember.
People people come up to me all the time and go, "Hey, do you remember when you were at our church in Birmingham?" And I'm like, you're gonna have to give me more details than that.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
I don't keep that stuff in my head.
Yeah, me
But
neither.
yeah, so well, welcome to the One Degree of Andy podcast, my friend Jeff Allen,
What's it
and
called?
1 Degree of Andy.
1 degree of Andy. I like
Yeah,
that.
you like
So
that? I worked
yeah,
hard on that.
it's
Yeah,
not 8 degrees of what was it, Kevin Bacon?
yeah,
Yeah.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or something like that. I do like that game. I'm actually really good at that. My pop culture knowledge, or at least it
Oh,
used to be
really?
pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
remember. I'm telling you, my brain. We just listened to a podcast on with Casey Means and Callie Means, and
Uh-huh.
these are the health gurus that have basically said that the entire diet that we eat is causing us Alzheimer's, and that's like my biggest fear. I got asked recently in an interview, if you have one question when you get to heaven, what would you ask God? I go, why Alzheimer's? Why take the memories, man? That's the only thing you got left when you're old, is just to try to remember the good stuff.
I know,
And
right? Well,
why
it
take that?
does.
That's my
Well,
fear. Is just losing my. I'm at the end of my life, and I'm on my deathbed, and all I can remember is my show. And my grandkids are
yeah.
looking at me like I'm a lunatic. Is he
My
talking
wife and I
about
talk
charades
about,
with his
yeah.
wife? I have no idea.
My wife and I talk about that all the time. Just like, oh, if either one of us ever gets there, like, is there something we can do that's legal that doesn't,
Yeah, well, go to
I don't know.
Oregon. Just take
Yeah.
a trip to Oregon, and have them give you a cocktail. I mean,
Yeah.
my sister and I were just talking about it. It's a shame when you get to this age. That's kind of the conversations you
Yeah.
have. And she
Yeah.
said the same thing. She told her granddaughter, "If you're the only one that'll do it to me for me, if I lose my mind." And I again, it's this. You weigh out the people who love you. Do they mind taking care of you and having you around, or but you're not you. You're a
Yeah.
shell.
That's
And
right. That's right. It is a
but
burden.
anyway,
My
if you
mom,
listen to Casey and Callie, and we just had our first series of blood tests, Function Health, it's called, and we 58 markers
yeah.
on the first round, and I was in range on all of them. And Tammy has just got her third round. They take about 180 different markers from your blood,
Uh-huh. Wow.
and it will trigger certain warning signs so that you get your diet fixed up and changed around. There's things you can do with vitamins and whatever
Yeah. So that's
early
correct.
enough.
Yeah, you can correct all that. That's
Right.
going the right direction. That's my mom had. She wasn't formally diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but she did. The doctors were pretty sure she did have a dementia her last year of
Yeah.
her life, and she was in a nursing home, and it was just tough. That was just tough. It's just kind of like, why, God, why would you let
Right.
somebody be around this long? You ask those questions, and yeah, this is not where I want the podcast to go.
I
Can
know.
can
Well,
we
that's what
can we go a
but this is
different
what old
direction?
people
I
talk
mean,
about.
you
I don't
you
Listen,
make
I'm the old guy. I tell audiences all the time. If I see a young person in the front, I tell them, by the time I'm done, you'll think you had dinner with your grandparents at Thanksgiving.
at
It's
least
just that's all you
the
can talk about is I had shoulder surgery. I'm
uh,
not wearing my sleeve out of respect for you and your audience.
well, yeah.
And I
So we were supposed to do this a few weeks ago, and you had shoulder surgery, and I'm just glad that. You look great. You feel great. You,
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm hitting the road tomorrow.
yeah. Wow.
Headed to Colorado and then to Vegas. Vegas apparently is not my market.
Oh,
My manager called me. You know, bands in town, right?
these are the Eagles.
No, the bands in town. That's the app that
Oh, Bands of Town. Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you send out an e-blast, and anybody who follows you that
Right.
is on bands in town, then they know
Right.
you're coming to town.
Right.
So anyway, for me, we run 75 miles in a circle from where I'm working,
Uh-huh.
and average is 200 to 300 people maybe following me on bands in town. You know, Vegas, 200-mile search, 90 people. So not doing too well in Vegas apparently.
Where are you going to be in Vegas?
Wise Guys Comedy Club. They have a chain of clubs,
Uh-huh.
and I do really well in Salt Lake and Provo, but apparently not in Vegas.
You think it's the kind of the dry bar, clean comedy kind of thing? Is that why it doesn't do well in Vegas? Or
I
do
don't,
you have,
I don't know. Again, Vegas is an entertainment town. There's a lot of
yeah,
choices to
sure.
go, and if and it's a 6 o'clock show on a Saturday. Most people in Vegas are just getting out of bed.
That's true.
6 o'clock. So,
Yeah.
but I do early shows because my audience doesn't like driving at night. So
That's
another thing.
funny.
And so I'm one of the few people that'll be in Vegas on Saturday at 8 o'clock watching a movie in my hotel room.
Well, that's probably a good place to be in
Right.
Vegas on a Saturday night. We go to Vegas a lot. We love it out there. We love the restaurants and the shows, and we get a group of friends and we'll go and just have a great time. And that's one thing I haven't done is go to a. No, I actually have. We've been to a couple comedy shows there that were pretty good.
I
But
used to work there twice a year for
uh
years, for
yeah.
15 years. I would do two, a spring and a winter show at the Trop. We like going in the summer when the kids were in school. We would take them out and then hang by the pool for a week. And it was very funny. I took the kids out of school once to go to Vegas, and I told them, "Don't tell anybody, where you're going." We just told them that we have to take you out. We got a family thing to do. And I walk in, and the principal comes out and hands me a 50. He says, "Hey, put it on black." A couple teachers came out. I go, "Guys, you know." So
Yeah, we
anyway,
have this. Yeah, that happens to us as well. Well, you're busy now. I mean, is this
I
is
am.
this the busiest you've been
Yes.
in your career?
Yep, pretty much. I had I wouldn't even call it a resurgence. I had settled in, you know. For years I did comedy clubs, and then they kind of faded, and then I had I got saved. We came to our faith sometime in the 90s, and I was in Vegas when 9/11 hit.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
what that 2001. I was
Wow.
working the Trop, and I couldn't get home, and I came home and told my Jewish manager, "I'm going to see if churches will hire me." And he says, "Well, you're asking the wrong guy." So we were the blind leading the blind here in Nashville. So I put it out there. It's I said, "I'm willing to work your church." And I got one church in 1 year, a whole year. I got one church to commit to me.
What church was it?
Some in Pennsylvania. Very funny story. I had called a friend of mine. You know Chaz Corzine.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
so everybody knows Chaz.
Yeah.
So I called Chaz, was a good friend of mine. I said, "I'm doing this church, first one I've ever done. Would you pray with me?" So he prays, for peace and understanding, whatever. And then he goes, "Hey, I got a joke for you," and he tells me the joke. And anyway, I'm driving. They pick me up at the airport. First church ever, right? I'm in the car,
Yeah.
dead quiet, and I'm sure you've had this where they pick you up. So now it's quiet. Nobody's talking. It's pretty awkward, and it's an odd feeling. And I'm in the front seat, the guy in the back. And anyway, the guy in the back seat, after about 20 minutes of total silence, says, "I think I should tell you what you're in for." And my first thought is confessions and snakes. That's all I can think of. Might drag me into it. I don't know. Who knows? I've never done
Yeah.
this before. And so anyway, they go, "We had a pastoral change 6 months ago after
Oh,
30
no.
years of one pastor.
Yeah.
He retired, and the new guy has divided the church. Half the church loves him, the other half hates him. They're going to start their own church. And tonight is the first time we're having an event where everybody's getting together. And I'm a brand new Christian,
Oh, you're
brand new.
like, thanks
I
a
mean,
lot.
and I'm thinking, I thought you guys got along. I know better now, but It's been
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
So anyway, and the joke that Chaz told me, I'll tell you the joke now. It's an old church joke. You probably heard it. Guy stranded on an island out there all by himself, which is what stranded means. He's out there by himself. Anyway, years, 20 years he's been out there, never seen another human being. Anyway, at one point he spots a ship in the distance. He goes, holy cow, humans. And he lights a fire and he's flagging the smoke. And some captain saw the smoke and brings the ship up, takes a small craft ashore. So it's this captain, two of his assistants standing there, and he's looking around. He goes, you're the only one here. He goes, yes, sir. You're the first human being I've seen in 20 years. And the guy goes, if you're the only one here, why'd you bother to build 3 houses? And he goes, that first house, that's my home. That's where I live. And he goes, second one's my church. That's where I worship. And then captain says, what's the third one? He goes, oh, that's the church I used to go to. Isn't that a perfect joke for a church that's divided? And I figured, what the heck? I might as well bury my career right now. So I told the joke. I figured, and it was this delay, and then everybody busted up laughing. And
Wow.
I walk in, I smell coffee, I smell cookies. I go, I never smelled that at a comedy club.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
think I'm going to like this church thing. But it was Gaither. I got hooked up with the Gaithers, and Bill's approval of
And how did
what I
that
was.
happen? How did that
Oh my gosh, what a
get made?
story! I go to you ever hear of Sam's Place at the
Oh
Ryman?
yeah.
Did you guys
Hmm.
ever do it with Gary
Yes, sure
Chapman?
did. Hmm.
So anyway, I had moved to Nashville, and Chaz invited me down to Sam's Place at the Ryman. And I mean, we're not even 6 months believers. So we walk into this event, and at one point, Chaz comes over. He goes, "Hey, you want to go up and do 5 minutes?" I go, holy cow, are you kidding? The Ryman? Are you kidding me? And I mean, again, I'm leaving clubs where 100 people, 200,
Yeah.
and it was packed out. And to this day, the Ryman is one of my favorite rooms.
Oh, I love it there.
And anyway, I go up and it just a blast. I had goosebumps. I walk off. Tammy's crying because she never thought she'd ever see me on a stage like that.
Wow.
I mean, my
Wow.
career was in the tank at that point, and we're just kind of rebuilding our marriage and everything. So anyway, 2 days later, 3 days, somebody calls me and says, Chaz gave me your number, and we're doing a show for the Christ Presbyterian Choir at the Belmont Mansion living room. Would you like to do a show? We don't have any money. And I said, I don't care. I got nothing to do. So I go down there and I do this show for 50 people in a living room. And after the show, people are coming over talking, blah, blah, blah. And some woman comes over and there's a guy standing behind her and she's talking my ear off, just yakking. And anyway, she leaves and he steps up. I go, you're not married to her? He goes, oh gosh, no. I go, you got the patience of Job. Are you kidding me? You sat there through that whole thing. I thought you two were together. I would have ran her off, you know. And he goes, oh no, gosh, no. He says, I work with a guy named Bill Gaither. I go, who's that? And he goes, you never heard of Bill Gaither? I go, no. He goes, oh, this is going to be better than I thought. We do a little gathering in Indianapolis. I'm sure he would like you to be part of this, and I'll introduce you to. And then 2 days later, my manager calls me and he goes, who did you meet at Belmont? I go, some guy named, and you probably know him, Bob McKenzie.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Bob.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Bob hooked us up, and I had lunch with Bill, and I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Gaither, but I'm not familiar with you. But anyway, he goes, yeah. Never heard of me? I go, no, I have not. And he said, this is good. Bob said it would be good. This is good. We do a little gathering in Indianapolis. And so anyway, you'll appreciate this because you were in that world with the
Yeah.
backdrops and the
Oh yeah.
merch sales. So anyway, I had a video, and we go to Kinko's and print up this 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that says VHS. That's how long ago it was. VHS, $20. Happy wife, happy life. And we walk in, and the first thing we see is Mark Lowry covering an entire wall. He's got stacks of merchandise.
Yeah.
I crumble up my paper. I told Tammy, we're not going to sell anything. This is ridiculous. The little gathering was like 15,000 people.
Wow.
And so
Was
Bill
it,
tells me,
wait, was it Praise Gathering? Was it like the,
yeah, it was called the Praise Gathering, right?
yeah, Praise Gathering. Yeah.
Yeah. So he tells me at lunch, he said, a third of my audience will laugh at whatever you do. My audience, they'll come to have a great time. They don't care if they get it or not. They're just getting to laughing. The other third might not understand everything you're talking about, but because the first third is laughing, they're going to laugh right along with them. And I got a third of my people who have never been given permission to laugh their entire life. They've been told that this walk on earth is something you endure until you get to heaven, and then
Wow.
then the real joy begins. And he goes, if you can make them laugh we'll have a long relationship. And the first thing he said to me on Thursday night when he walked up, he goes, "You got them all, man, all the way to the back wall."
Wow.
And the beauty was the next day, remember Dan Postema? You know
Yep.
Dan? Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm sure you do. So anyway, Dan comes over to me and he puts his arm around me and he goes, "You did a great job last night, man. Really loved what you did." And man, you're waiting for the butt.
Right.
That's the stroke. Here comes the
Yeah.
slap. you know.
Yeah.
And he says, "You really hit your wife kind of hard last night." And I'm thinking, holy cow, you have no idea. I mean, those years in the clubs when I was brutal, just brutal. I wrote about it in the book. But anyway, he said, "Today on the breakout, could you mention you love her?" And I go, "They don't know that." And he goes, "It would help if you just took a second or two and
Interesting.
just mentioned you loved your wife." So I
Interesting.
finished my set, 15, 20 minutes. I'm leaving. And I remember as an afterthought, oh, I got to tell him I love Tammy. So I go back the microphone. They're still applauding. And I go, "Look,
Yeah.
I got to say this. God bless me with this most amazing woman. And we're just starting to get back together." And I start crying. Andy, I'm telling you,
Oh,
big
wow.
crocodile, tears. I mean, just overwhelmed me. And I walk off, and my wife looks at me and goes, "What the hell was that?" "Holy cow, Jeff, what was that?" I go, "I don't know. They told me I got to tell the audience I love you. I've never done it." I had comics coming to me going, "Holy cow, Jeff, what's going on?" I go, "I don't know." But that was the beginning of what I called my ministry.
Wow.
I had a story to tell,
Hmm.
and we started doing outreach after that. And Bill's stamp of approval basically opened me up in Michigan. Especially, I got
Hmm.
3 pairs of wooden shoes from Holland, Michigan.
Wow.
Uh, they kept me alive for a year. The state of Michigan, all Gaither fans, all these really conservative, old churches, Lutheran, Baptist, Calvary, all of
Yeah.
them. But anyway, it gave me a foothold into doing outreach, and that kept me alive for a good 10 years
Wow.
until
People
dry
don't
dock.
understand about the entertainment industry is how you do have to, you're always looking for that next thing because I mean, it's kind of like any other business. I mean, you sometimes you can just that run of what you're good at can end, or the audience isn't there the way it used to be, and that's a lot of stress for an artist is having to reinvent themselves or decide do I have to go find another line of work? Did you ever think about that during those tough years about what you would do if you didn't do
Well, the
comedy?
'90s was like that. I tried to get out of it. I was doing temp work, and marriage was imploded. It imploded. It wasn't even imploding. It had imploded. We had filled out divorce papers, had them notarized, and she changed
Wow.
her mind about 10 minutes from filing them. But that was always they were in the closet. I mean, they were sitting there. Nobody tore them up. And I just couldn't figure out, I have no skills, I really don't. I
Yeah.
mean, so I go to get a job at a car dealer to sell trucks, and this guy humiliates me, just humiliates me. I had filed bankruptcy because I couldn't pay my bills. That was one of the band-aids we put on our bad marriage, was to buy
Yeah.
things we couldn't afford.
Mm.
And eventually, you just realize you can't pay them, so they repo everything. And anyway, I'm trying to get back on my feet, and he's got my credit report in front of him, and he says, "At your age, right?" And I was 38, 37. Anyway, he says, "Would you consider yourself a success?" I said, "No, not really. I've been in comedy for 15 years now, and I just don't think that's going to work out anymore, and I'm looking to make a change." And he said, "Comedy, so you're a comedian?" I go, "I am." He goes, "What kind of jokes do you tell?" And I told him, I talk about my wife, my family. He goes, "Give me an example." So I'm sitting at a desk, and I just kind of casually throw out, I don't act it, I don't perform it, I just give him the thing. He goes, "Wow, you're not even funny. Why'd
Wow.
you wait so long to get out of comedy?" And then he
Wow.
looks at my credit report and he goes, you are a loser." And he goes, "I don't hire losers here. None. We have the most successful sales force in this entire
Wow.
county because we hire winners." And I looked at him and I said, "I don't think you and I would get along." He goes, "Yeah, I don't think we would. Again, I don't hire losers." And I'm sweating under the pits. I mean, it was humiliating. It really
Mm.
was. So I went home and I told Tam, I said, "I'm virtually unemployable." I mean, again, that's my head,
Yeah.
one job you get turned down. Well, that's it. I'm unemployable.
Yeah.
So then I go to Domino's Pizza, and I had read that if you're on the ball and sharp, if you start at the bottom where you make pizzas, deliver pizzas, and all of that. And eventually, you'll manage a store, and if you do that well, they'll get you a franchise. They'll make sure that they like to do that. The owner was a believer, I think, and he really wanted to help young people out that didn't really have a direction, but they got it. So anyway, I read about all that, and I thought, well, I'll get a pizza. I'll start delivering pizzas. So I fill out my application. I got this acne covered manager. He's just 19 years old or
Yeah.
whatever. He goes, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a comedian." He goes, "How does that qualify you for delivering pizzas?" I said,
What?
"We're delivering them, right? We're not breaking down the molecular structure back there, right? There's not a whole lot of science because I didn't do well in science, but I can find addresses. That's what I do. I go to other towns. I don't even live in these towns, and I find the addresses. I can do this." Anyway, he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, I don't know. We'll call you." And I went home, and again, I tell Tammy, I'm unemployable. I go, apparently my interviewing skills suck. And so,
Wow.
but anyway, here was the thing, I had filled out that on my temp form that I was a comedian. So they call me and they go, "Look, we got a comedian coming to the Carousel Theater, I think in Phoenix. I think that's what it was. Anyway, the Carousel, and there's a comedian. How'd you like to seat people for his show?" And in my naivete, I thought, well, I'll go there, I'll meet somebody, and then I'll tell them I'm a comedian, and maybe they'll hire me. That's why I wasn't very successful. I didn't really have an understanding of how the business worked.
Huh.
So anyway, I tell Tammy, I'm going to go seat people for the comedian. And she says, "Who is it?" And I told her, and she goes, "Over my dead body. You're not seating anybody for that hack." And I'm not going to mention his name, but
Oh, shoot. Okay.
I say that I'll tell you off air. But
Okay.
I wrote about it in the book. I didn't put his name in the book, and people ask, they go, "All right, who was it?" And he's a very successful comedian. And anyway, she said, "You're not going to see people for that hack. You're a comedian. Stop this. Get your head out of your backside. Fire your agent. He's got you convinced you're worthless." And he
Wow.
did. That's in hindsight, looking at it. You put your faith in somebody. When you've had a bad agent, you don't know it if that's the only agent
Yeah,
you've ever had. But
you're right.
when you get a good agent, you look back and go, "Holy cow." I mean, when you finally get somebody that, I used to do a joke about my impression of all agents is like they look at the phone and go, "Ring, ring." That's a bad agent. And I finally, when I got to Nashville,
Like
it was very funny.
it reminds me of Joey's agent on is it Joey Tribbiani's agent on Friends?
Oh,
It's yeah, that's a picture I got.
well, that was kind of it. He was a New
Yeah,
York guy. I thought, well, New York, and
yeah,
all he kept telling me was as the money kept going down, 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 he goes, "You're lucky to be working. You're lucky to be working. You're lucky. Look at I'm doing. I am got you. You're one of the best I got, man. And this is all I can. And I got to Nashville and I got in front of a guy that really. And he tells me, he goes, "All right, man, what do you want to make money wise? What's the number for you?" And I threw out the largest money I could ever think of. It was like huge money for me. And he looked at me and said, "That's it?
Hmm.
That's all you want to make? How
Wow,
about I make a few bucks in this?" And I went home and told Tammy, I said, "I think I got the right guy.
wow,
At least his ambition for me is a lot bigger than, hey, you're lucky to be barely making your bills."
yeah.
And I wasn't making my bills, which is why the bankruptcy.
Well, and that's
But
that's the story of every artist that is successful is you have to have people champion you around you and think bigger than you're thinking because
oh,
there
absolutely.
are very few that can dream it and do it. You can dream it or you can do it. You usually can't do
Right.
both, and you need somebody to come alongside of you to say,
Well, that's
"Hey, let me take you somewhere you can't get to
yeah.
yourself."
Here's a great conversation I had. I'm pretty self-deprecating, and we were going to sit down and meet with somebody who was going to get me involved in a theater for a solid month's worth of work. I think in Atlantic City. Anyway, they were interested in it, and we were meeting at Opryland. So anyway, I come in 10 minutes late, and I start making fun of myself. Hey, man. Anyway, the guy gets up and goes to the bathroom, and both of my managers looked at me and said, "I am tired of this, man. We just spent 20 minutes with this guy building you up and pumping you up. We were selling this guy prime rib. You walk in and talk like you're chopped beef, and that's
Wow.
going to stop right now. That stops right now." And
Wow.
I looked at him and I go, "You're serious?" He goes, "We're damn serious about this. Shut your yap. This is your career. This is your livelihood. You know, do it on
Wow.
stage. It's all you want. Once you got the gig, do whatever you want. But we're trying to get you the gig here." And I've never forgotten that,
Mm,
and I hear that a lot from artists.
yeah.
They'll come in and, you're sitting there with people and they'll start making fun of their career or whatever it is. And you want to walk them off to the side and go, "Look, you don't do that in strange company. You don't know who's sitting here. You have no idea." I did it with Letterman in New York. Um, I had finished the show and I was in a bad spot. I was sober maybe 2 years. Really, I was just a walking scab. That was what I was, just literally a walking
Uh,
scab. And if I got picked at, this pus would ooze out. And I was angry. And New York's a great place if you're like that. I mean, nobody looks at it oddly. I mean, if I talk like that in Nashville, they'd run me out of the room. But New York, so I'm screaming on stage one night about this and that, whatever. And some guy comes over to me and he goes, "Hey man, really enjoyed your shot, and that thing you do about getting pulled over by the cops, is that true?" I go, "Nah, I make all this crap up. It's just bull." He goes, "Oh," and then he walks away, and somebody walks over and goes, "What did Gannon want with you?" I go, "Who's Gannon?" He goes, "He's a coordinator from Letterman."
oh.
Okay. So like 3 weeks later, my agent calls. He goes, "What did you do to Gannon?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, they're doing a showcase for Letterman at Catch, and when we put your name in, they said, no, we've seen enough of him.
Wow.
We have no desire anymore." And that's when I told Tammy, "We got to move. I got to get out of New York before I burn every bridge."
Mm. So how long did you live
That's
in New
also
York?
taught me that you never know who's sitting there. You have
Yeah.
no clue,
How
no
long were you in
clue.
New York?
I was in Jersey. We lived 2 years maybe. I
Uh-huh.
worked in the city, and it was a good experience. But I when I left New York, I said, unless the Letterman show personally Dave calls me personally and invites me in. And now I had a comic friend of mine who became the coordinator for Letterman. Now, he hired the comedians. It was a good friend of mine. We used to work together a lot. So I called him up and I said, "Hey, I would love to audition for you." And he goes, "Yeah, come on in, man." So I called, I think it was Caroline's at that time, Caroline's. And I said, "Hey, man, you remember me?" He goes, "Oh, God, Jeff, yeah, we remember you." I said, "Tuesday night," I said, "Eddie's going to come in and I'd like to do a showcase for him." And so I did the showcase, and we're driving in a cab, me and the coordinator, friend of mine. They play poker every Tuesday for years. I said, "You guys still playing poker?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, every Tuesday. 6 comics get together." So I said, "You mind if I join you?" So I went in there. And he gave me some really good inside information. And he said, "Look, I may get 22 comedians for the entire year next year. 16 of them are regulars that Dave likes to see. So I got 6 slots for new people in an entire year. Dave, if I put you on, Dave's going to ask why a guy your age I'm putting on. So unless you got a show, a book, something that I can say you're there to plug, that he knows he can help you with, I can't put friends on. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying. Yeah. And I said, "Look, man, this is the truth. One Letterman show is going to do nothing for my career. This is bucket list stuff, man. When I started, that was what I wanted to do. Well, I started in '78, so the Letterman wasn't there, but I wanted to do the Tonight Show or the Letterman Show. And to this day, I haven't done either.
Wow.
Well, Letterman's gone, but yeah, it's interesting. And when I got to Nashville and I looked at where I wanted to go with my career, that was the furthest thing from it. Didn't matter to me. Matter of fact, I did a show in Burbank, and Jay Leno opened for me at the club,
Wow.
and we had a nice conversation in the back of the room and stuff, and we thought it very funny. But again, it's like at our age, my age, yeah, what's the old guy? So when I did America's Got Talent, and
Oh, you did? Yeah, I did
I
know
did the
that. I knew
audition.
about that. Yeah.
I did the audition,
Uh-huh.
and I do terrible auditions because I got to memorize a script, and I
Yeah.
don't. In my live show, believe me, nobody knows how much stuff I forgot.
Yeah.
They have no idea. It's
Yeah.
an hour and 15, hour and a
Yeah.
half, and
Yeah.
nobody knows.
I can tell. I can tell just seeing you this last time. It's just muscle memory for you. It's just
Right,
you know where to go. You know where the audience is. You can tell where the audience flow is going, and you go with that. And
right.
it's
Yeah, if I ad
masterful.
lib something, and if I
Yeah.
get sideways and forget something, I'll stop and go, "Hey, I forgot something," then I'll
Yeah.
back up. you know, the other night I had not worked for 2 weeks, and that's usually the first show back is like, man, wow. And I completely forgot to set up something that I recall later in the show. So the recall would have made no sense because they would have no idea what I was talking about. So I
Yeah.
stopped in the middle of it and I said, look, I was about to do something, but I got to go back and do something I should have did like 40 minutes ago. So anyway, I'm going to tell you, and I did it. I did the whole thing
Yeah.
and then I did
And
the
I'm sure
other
the
one, and I
crowd
go,
loved it.
see, now you
Yeah.
see what I'm talking about. This second one would
Yeah.
have made no sense
Yeah.
if I don't do that. So I said, you just got to see how the sausage is made. You all think this is just flying off the top of my head. No, there's a method to this.
Yeah.
So I go in America's Got Talent, and I got a 90-second set. And I stand up there and I go line one, line two, and my brain goes blank.
Oh no.
Third line, can't remember. So I stop. It's happened enough. I just go to Simon. Can I start again? Simon Cowell says, absolutely. He said, we're taping. Don't worry about it. Just get your thoughts. Happens more than you think. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I start again. It's the third line is gone. I cannot remember it. Now I'm panicking. Terry Crews comes out with water and he's, think about it. I'm trying. So I take a couple sips and then I remember the line, the third line. So I deliver the 90 seconds and then all four judges go, yes, 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 yes. Very nice. And I get home and I tell Tim, they're going to live shows after this. So I'm not going to get picked. And she goes, you're being negative. I go, no, I'm being honest. I mean, when a young guy, 25 years old, blanks on national television in front of a live audience, people root for that 25-year-old. Come on, man. Come on. You can do this. 65-year-old, man, it's just like, it's uncomfortable. I mean, we just watched it in the White House for 4 years, man.
Yeah. Right.
It's not pretty, and so anyway, sure enough, they passed, but I wasn't surprised.
But I think, do you feel like there's another level to what you want to do? I mean, you're busy as it is. You're still doing a lot of the Gaither things, right? You're
Well, we
still
just wrote a pilot script for the book. Are we there yet?
right.
And
Yeah.
we are having a fundraiser meeting October 9th in
Uh-huh.
Nashville here with some potential investors. We want to control the pilot. We want to control the creative. I did a pilot in 2000 for Castle Rock, and I got played as an artist. I got played like I've
Hmm.
never. I walked into a buzzsaw. All the passive aggressive. We'd start shooting, rehearsals, and I'd go, I got a line here that might work better, and if I know anything, I know comedy for me, and I know what works. And this is a sitcom, so at least give me the respect of giving it a shot, and let's see if it works, So they'd pat my hand and he'd make a note on a pad. None of what I suggested, and believe me, there were a lot of them. The script was weak, and but I always thought that, oh, okay, this is just the beginning, But turns out that was the script, and the showrunner ran it pretty tight and couldn't stray, couldn't ad lib, couldn't.
Hmm.
So anyway, when this one opportunity came around, we got a young guy in town, a producer that read the book and reached out to us and said, I'd really think there's a show here and I'd love to be part of it. And he sent me the first draft of the script and I wrote him back. I go, I don't know any of these people. I don't know what book you read, but I don't know any of these people. And he said, well, help me out. So over a period of about 2 months back and forth, we got a really nice script. I think it's my voice. I'm playing my father because the first 6 chapters of the book were my ages 31 to 38, which were going to Alcoholics Anonymous and eventually giving my life to Christ 7 years later. So that's that journey in the midst of all of that through New Age Buddhism and humanism and all
Wow.
that, just trying to find some point to any of this. So we see a 3-season arc. So that's really a dream now. I mean, I really would love. We're going to shoot it in Nashville. We took some creative license with the geography of the book, and we've got some a really successful, famous comic that's reading it now, and we're hoping that he signs on. And
Wow. That would be
got an
awesome.
actress. Yeah, it
I hope
will
that
be.
works
I mean,
out. Yeah.
at this point in my life, to think of something that I gave up. I mean, really, I wrote it off in 2000. I mean, I got my one shot. Believe me, somebody invested $750,000 on my pilot, and it didn't get picked up. So I mean, it's a heavy paperweight.
Sure.
You know?
What was the original um Like, what was the story about in your original pilot? What was the setup?
Happy Wife, Happy Life. It was based on the
Because you said that first. I mean,
right.
that's in
Yeah.
our vernacular now,
Well, it is. I get it.
and
People send me all the time. There's an ad on a billboard or whatever.
yeah.
We were trademarked it. I trademarked. I wanted a licensing deal with Cracker Barrel. That was my dream. And
Oh,
we're living
wow.
in Tennessee. They're in Lebanon,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Tennessee. I'm thinking, this is it. Just give me 2 cents on everything you sell, for the rest of my life in perpetuity. I don't care. I just thought mailbox money would be great,
Yeah.
but they
And
didn't
it
want
is.
anything to do.
Yeah.
They wanted nothing to do with it, nothing to do with it. And then somebody, Teresa Judice, New Jersey housewife,
Yeah.
picked it up and claimed it as hers.
No
And
way.
yeah, I'm online reading some of the comments. Oh, this is so funny. How'd you come up with this? Oh, I just came up with it. And oh, you should sell stuff. So anyway, she started selling stuff. So I hired a copyright attorney here in Nashville, and we sued Bravo Television. I think I can mention it now because we signed some kind of
Yeah.
non. It doesn't matter. So anyway, I ended up collecting $25,000 for my trouble, and my legal fees were $29,000.
No.
Told Tammy when I got home, we're going to go broke defending this copyright.
But
So
at
we
least you
just
got it.
let it lapse. We let it
Yeah.
lapse and
Yeah.
gave it to the world. I don't care.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
so anyway, that was the title of the pilot was Happy
Uh-huh.
Wife, Happy Life, and the actress that played my wife, you might even know her. She was Tank Girl, and she was in
Oh, yeah.
League of Their Own,
Yeah. And Point Break.
Point Break, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
can't
she
remember her
was
name,
really
but yeah.
fun to work with. I didn't think that was a fit for a Midwestern. She walks in with blue and purple hair,
Yeah.
and we said, you gotta, go blonde or brown. This is Midwest. You know, and we were way ahead of our time anyway. It was about a guy. I got downsized, and I was forced to move. I got downsized out. And the funniest scene in the whole pilot was none of my old office furniture fit in my new stinky office. So at one point, my assistant walks in, and the door won't even open because it hits my desk. Oh yeah, I'm working this out. I'm working this
Is
out.
that available to watch anywhere? Does was at least what
No, gosh, no.
oh,
You can
it
watch. You're
never
come to visit me. I think I have it at the
okay.
house here. I
All
don't know
right.
if I have it on CD. I think I
That would be
do.
cool to see. Do
Yeah,
you
I
ever
was
watch?
especially 20 some years ago. I had a full
Yeah.
head of hair,
Yeah.
and they asked me if when we were showcase. I was doing showcases. There was some interest, but you have to showcase for the studios, and
Yeah.
they'd come out to the club and see the act, and they said, "Can you act?" And I go, "I will tell you this: I'm as bad as I'm going to be right now." I said, "I will improve and get better as time goes on." And you I just did a movie a couple years ago that hasn't been released yet, and
And what is
he
that?
reached out on Facebook and asked me, "Can you act?" I go, "I can find my mark and I can deliver a line." You I'm not De Niro,
Yeah.
and I'm not Pacino. I'm not gonna.
What's the name of the movie? Can you tell us that?
My seven grandmas, they stretched me. I play a grandfather. They pushed my limits. It's a good premise. It'd be interesting to see. Again, it's how the sausage is made,
Yeah.
and it's just a mishmash. I don't know how they put it together because everything's shot out of sequence, everything, and
Hmm.
it's interesting because you'll say something and they'll go, "Oh, yeah, we can clean that up and post." The director knows exactly. He goes, "Yeah,
Yeah.
we cleaned that up. Don't worry about it when we put this together. We got everything we need here." So anyway, I'm curious to see what the finished product. But the premise is Minnesota. Um, my wife dies in January, and you can't bury people in Minnesota in January
Right.
because the ground's frozen.
Yep.
So May it thaws, and my daughter and my granddaughter come from California to uh, go to the funeral of their grandmother and their mother. And it turns out I'm just loopy enough to where the two sisters get together and go, somebody has to stay with dad, and my granddaughter doesn't want to live in Minnesota. And she's an avid reader. She goes to the library, and there's 7 old women putting books away, like the old Dewey Decimal System.
Yep.
Remember that?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, they teach her. They go, well, if you'd like to come down here, and she has this idea that if I can marry my grandfather off to one of these 7 old ladies, then I can go back to California. So That's the
That's
premise
super
of the
fun.
movie. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's again, it's not going to win any Oscars or
Yeah.
but it's uh I had fun doing it. I've never done a feature film. So
Yeah.
2 weeks on location. Very funny. Tammy, hey, maybe you can use this. Tammy, we got into an argument on the phone. I had told my manager that Tammy will determine how much I work. I had told Tammy, you know me, I'm going to put my head down and do what my management tells me to do. That's it. I'm not going to come up for air. So when you get tired of me being not being home, let me know. I'll call him and he'll stop booking me. I mean, that's it. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm about a week, not even a week, maybe 5 days into this 2 week location shoot, and we get into an argument. And I said, "What the heck is going on with you?" And she said, "Don't hate me for missing you." And I go, "Wow, that's a country lyric. Isn't that? Isn't that a
Yes, it
great
is.
lyric? You
Yep.
can run with that. You're a songwriter. You can do that." So anyway, I flew her out, my manager out, got for a few days and kind of reconnected. And it's funny because I called my manager right after that. And I said, "All right, we're done for the year." That was September. I said, "Tammy, wants me home," and he said, "I'm way ahead of you. I stopped booking you in August, so
Oh,
we're
wow.
done for the year. Whatever's on the books, we'll do." And I said,
Yeah.
"Great." And
Good for you.
this year is the first year I took 6 weeks off
How was that?
voluntarily. Just took 6 weeks off, and
Did you enjoy it or was it kind of
well, it was a
terrifying?
little stressful. I got behind. I didn't realize how much it cost me to live. You know,
Yeah.
cash flow issue. Because Tammy goes, "Are we broke?" No, we're not broke. It's just a cash flow issue. Just
Yeah.
I got to get back out there for a month. We'll be fine. And but 2 weeks with the grandkids and 4 weeks at home with her and playing some golf. And COVID taught me uh, with 5 months. And the joke is 30 days. She comes to me and says, "I've been waiting to say this. You have not been home 30 consecutive days in our entire marriage." And I
Hmm.
said, "That's not true." She goes, "No, it's true. I've been waiting to say this. Welcome home, 30 days."
Wow.
And the
Wow.
joke is by day 45, we were both Googling lawyers. It's
Yeah.
like, it wasn't pretty. I mean, I have not gone 45 days without work. It was like, I mean, I'm going to pay my bills. I got to, and all
Yeah.
this, and yeah, I forgot, the Bible says, don't worry about it. God will provide. And so by day 60, kind of settled in playing golf with my friends 3, 4 days a
Hmm.
week. And I was retired, in 5 months I was off. Okay, I the clubs opened up in Texas and a couple other places at like a 25% capacity. I said to my manager, "I don't care." He said, "You're losing a zero on your check." I said, "I don't care." I said, "I just want to get out and work.
Yeah.
That's all I do. I've been doing it for 40 years. You know, and I went out for a weekend, came home and told Tammy if I had the money, I would retire.
Mm.
I would, I mean, maybe not quit entirely, but I would
Yeah.
definitely. I liked being home. And I have friends, Shonda Pierce is a dear friend of mine. She takes 3 months off every year, just to be with family, friends, and
Mhm.
live a personal life.
Yeah.
And I'm not there yet, but I think 2 more years I'll be 70, and that's a good number to
Yeah.
reassess and say how
Yeah.
much. I don't need a lot of money. I'm really not. It was never something that drove me. I read something once that three things drive people that are successful: money, the desire for recognition, fame, and then the desire to do good work, to just do a quality job.
Yeah.
And I think that's me. I just want to do good work, and the money and the fame. If that comes, that's great. But I
Yeah.
believe, and certainly this, you guys did stellar work for decades, and um, all that other stuff comes when you do quality work, when you do good work. It's a small business. It really is. It's a small industry.
Yeah.
Word gets out, people talk,
Right.
you know, and so
Well, I
that's
think
always been
too,
my goal.
yeah, I think too, as we get older, I'm about 10 years behind you. And a lot of my friends who are my age and maybe just a little bit older, one of the things that they're always talking to me about is legacy, like not necessarily family legacy or financial legacy, but what did I do with my life up to this point?
Right.
Like how will I be remembered? Did I do something good,
Yeah.
in my lifetime? And you know, um, I think that's one of the things we're always looking for. And
Yeah.
it's why it is so hard to quit. sometimes because you think, did I do enough good? Did
Right.
I, all the
And
stuff
is
I've
the
done in the
body of
last 30
work
years?
going to
Yeah.
outlive you,
Hmm.
and yeah, I realized after Belushi and Chris Farley died that, that what did Mark Twain say? They, at your funeral, they lament you for an hour and forget you for a lifetime.
Yeah.
This business is shallow enough to move on from your work. And it's interesting when I do fundraisers, my pitch is always to the audience. The people that are in this ministry do the hard work. They're getting involved with the messy lives, the drug addicts, the alcoholics, the women that have been abused, the single mom that is just scared to death. They're involved with the personalities and the lives of those people. The easy part is to write a check, but know this, that if you write a check, you can put your head on the pillow tonight and know that somewhere in the world, that because of your resources, there are some lives being saved, lives being changed. And that's a good thing. That is a good
Amen.
thing to know. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to we all have to remind ourselves that we have thrown out those seeds, and this side of heaven will never see them. But I have to tell myself that all the time, because it's all, my brain is one of those that it's like, all right, what have you done lately? What have you
Yeah.
done lately?
Yeah.
And is it enough? And Tammy and I have talked about it, that when I slow down, do I want to get involved in a ministry? And I'm doing my first golf tournament, which you're invited to, by the way,
Oh, I'll be
June
there.
30th, June
Let me
30th.
know. Yeah.
And I'm working with called the Anti-Predator Project out of Miami. And 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know, my manager calls me and says, "You're going to want to talk to this guy. I gave him your number." I go, "You did?" He goes, "Yeah, you're going to want to." I said, "I am." He goes, "You are. You're going to want to talk to him." So he calls me up, and I figured it'd be about a 10 or 15 minutes. We talked for about an hour and a half. He had just come back from Mexico with the remains of a 14-year-old girl for her
Mm.
mother. And small operation. He had worked at an alphabet agency in, I think it was the intelligence community in DC, and got involved in the trafficking and realized after a number of years the government's not going to do anything to stop trafficking. They're steeped in it. There's too much money in it. It's a
Mm.
$150 billion a year industry. A lot of that money's finding its way into campaigns and getting people elected. And anyway,
Mm.
he just started on his own. He's just a small guy, one guy, got a board, small board of directors, guys he served with. And I said, "What do you want from me?" And he said, "I got these T-shirts." And I go, "Look, I'm going to be straight up with you. I don't travel with merch because I'm lazy, and I do. I just don't. It's all
Yeah.
I can do now to lug 30 books with me.
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
is that is a burden for sure.
it is, and
Yeah.
it's funny because the numbers tell me how much money I'm leaving
Yeah.
on the table by not
Yeah.
selling. I had a pastor
But
get in my face. "You don't have anything?" I know. He goes, "Then you must not have anything my people want to hear."
well,
I mean, that's
that's
how important it
ouch.
was to the pastor.
Yeah, but
So
you try
anyway, he
lugging
says,
that stuff
"No,"
to
he
the
goes, "I'll give you a
airports and all that
card.
stuff.
I'll
Yeah.
put a QR code on it, and your
Yeah.
people can go to the QR code and go to the website and order this stuff." And so that's what I had been doing. And then I talked to him about a year ago. I said, I've always wanted to do a golf tournament. It's my passion, golf. And then I've always wanted to do a scramble a tournament the way I want to do it, not the way other people do it, where it's 6 hours, you're out in 90-degree weather, and you probably volunteer. "Look, can I just
Yeah.
write you a check so I don't have to sit out here for
Yeah,
6 hours?"
exactly.
So anyway, he goes, "Oh, I'd love to do that, man. Where do you want to do it?" I said, "Well, I want to do it in Nashville because I live here." He goes, "Okay, great." He goes, "I got some friends that are Miami Dolphins. I'm sure they'll come up and play in it." So that's what started it. And then I just went to the club I belong to, and we got a date, June 30th. So now we got to figure out and just get some celebrities, people who want to come out and be part of what we're going to do, a pro-am and a two-ball, something that I've always wanted to do with a shamble, where
Hmm. I
the
love
pros
shambles.
ball is his
Yeah.
ball, and then the other four guys they make a best score out of that, and keep it to 72 players. So you're out of there in 4 hours,
Yeah.
and just charge a lot more money. You know, if I've learned anything, people that have money don't care about money; they
That's
just
right.
care about time.
That's right.
And when you're telling them it's 5.5, 6 hours, they just go, let me write it. I don't want to come out there. Just
Right.
let me
That's
donate
right.
to the charity.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where we're going to raise money for the Anti-Predator Project. And your listeners can go to the Anti-Predator Project online, see what the organization is all about. And
Yeah.
if you
What's the
want
website?
to, I think it's antipredatorproject.org or
Okay.
.com. But just
Okay.
Google Anti-Predator Project and
Yeah.
Trent's name will
We'll
come up.
make
But
that
what he does
information
now is he
available.
travels around and trains law enforcement, local law enforcement,
Yeah.
on what to look for and to set up anti-trafficking divisions. It's getting bad. I had a woman, I was in the Amish country in Pennsylvania, did a show, and a woman came over after I told them about the thing, and she was crying. They lost two girls at Walmart
Oh
that week.
no. Oh
Just
gosh.
well, they're naive. They're picking all
Yeah.
these small towns because the kids aren't street smart.
Right.
You
Oh,
know, they
it's
just these
heartbreaking.
guys come up and go, "Hey, we need directions." Next thing you know, they're in the van and they're off. You know, and it's happening all over the country. There's no community is safe from it. And
Mm.
it's again, this is just one small organization. There's a bunch of them. But if the people aren't going to do anything, you know, I'm hoping with the next election that he's brought it up. He's mentioned it. I think uh, it's going to be interesting. You know, they're looking at P Diddy. Have you seen the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I've been
and
keeping up with that. Yeah.
it's like, well, everybody's
It's
saying he's going to get Epstein. You
yeah.
know? Yeah, you know, it's like all these guys now
Yeah.
that get arrested. They go, "I'm not depressed. I'm not suicidal."
Um, your testimony is amazing. I love your stories about your relationship with Tammy, that it's, and that's a big part of your act. And if you go to one of your shows, you'll hear all those great stories. So people can find that all over your YouTube channel and some of the interviews you've done. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and we talked about it right at the beginning, was when you made the switch from being in clubs to going to churches, and how that was a real left turn for you, doing something different. Can we talk about that for a minute? Because I think to me, that's interesting, uh, because of the career, kind of that career journey we both share, which is, how do you make yourself, you know, how do you get invited to these things? Like, how do you make yourself hireable in churches? How did you change your storytelling and your act
I
to
didn't.
make it more of a church thing?
I didn't. And that's I think I was one of the, you know, I can be corrected on this, but I was really Ken Davis was as
Hmm.
close to doing stand up in the church. Most people that did comedy did humor. They talk about misprints in the church bulletin. They
Yeah.
did it for love offerings. And I brought a nightclub act into the church. I had started cleaning up a couple years earlier because my kid got caught cussing at school, fourth grade, you know, and we got called in. And I told the teacher, I said, I'd love to be able to seriously look you in the eye and tell you I have no idea where that child heard that kind of language. So we were driving home, and Tammy said to me, she goes, "That's a reflection on us. Um, you know, let's clean up at home." So I paid him a quarter for every bad word, and basically that's how I funded their college. So just a lot of words. But anyway, it became me aware of my
Yeah.
language, and then I got to work, and I thought, I wonder if I could clean up my shows, my stories, and it became really fun. I had a terrible vocabulary, and I realized that when I got to high school, I had a freshman year. I get called to the principal's office, and they said, "Well, you need to retake the test you took in eighth grade." I go, "I do." They go, "Yeah, we don't understand it. You have a 12th grade comprehension and a third grade vocabulary. So we don't understand that." And I go, "Well, when I see words in a paragraph, I can kind of figure out the context and what they mean. When I see a word by itself, I have no idea
Huh.
what it means. So anyway, that's basically what I took into my career as a comedian was a third or fourth grade vocabulary. So I had a lot of salty language to fill in the voids. So anyway, when I decided to clean up, I bought a book on SAT words. I even wrote a joke around one of the SAT words. It was acquiescence, and I said I came up with a line of men's colognes. A line of men's cologne. I call it acquiescence. It's for real men who know how to comply. And It's made with the oil of a jellyfish. And every now and then you get a smattering of applause. They go, it's nice to work for a group that knows what the word means. That's really good. So anyway, it became fun to do, to see if I
Yeah.
could rework stories, take the dirty stuff out. And
Hmm.
then in hindsight, I'm looking, because it was about 2 years, year and a half later, I gave my life to Christ. So I'm thinking maybe that was the prep work that
Huh.
God saw this. He sees the
Yeah.
big, I got work for you. I got to
Yeah.
get you going. So anyway, I took that into the church. I didn't change anything. I did stand-up comedy, and I told my story, why I love my wife and how I love her, and the alcoholism, the drug addiction, all the stuff, and which basically became the genesis of the first half of the book
Yeah.
was that story. And it resonated with the church because they had not seen anything like that, and it opened up an industry of comics that could do club stand-up in a church. They were okay with it as long as you kept it within the parameters of your faith.
Right.
And it was interesting, the anger, the edge, I softened it to the point where it was bothering me. I'm thinking,
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be like this. Let's see if we can push it. And Mark Lowry told me that. He said, find the line, kick it. There's a line, kick it.
Have you ever gone too far in a
Yeah,
church setting where
I
you feel
dropped an
like,
F-bomb at a men's
oh,
thing.
how'd that go over?
It was interesting. I was in the midst of talking. I was telling the story about how I used to talk to my wife, and I shared this story in the book. I got into an argument with her in the kitchen, and I stood on a stool in the kitchen over her, and I was yelling at her. And at one point, and all I kept saying was, "I don't want it." It was over a piece of food, and it was like, "I don't want it," and I don't want it. I kept telling her, "I don't want it," and she kept going, "Why not? What's wrong with you? It's not bad. It's not spoiled." I said, "I don't want it. I don't want." And that's all I kept saying. It just got louder and louder and louder. And I finally climbed up on the stool and I was screaming at her, "I don't want it. Are you effing deaf? I don't want it." And I dropped the F. I said, "I'm deaf."
Yeah.
And I went, "Ooh," immediately. The only
Yeah.
time, God has protected my tongue, not on the golf course, not on the golf course. In the settings that I've been in, I've been protected.
Yeah.
And anyway, I said to the pastor, "I am so sorry." And he goes, "Look, half this group are truck drivers. They've heard it, but
I
don't
feel
let it
like,
happen
man,
again."
I feel like the church is pretty forgiving if it's been pastored the right way. And, especially if they know your story
Well, then the context as well.
in the
It wasn't a
context. Right.
gratuitous. I
Exactly.
mean, it was,
Right. Yeah.
it was really, uh, but you're right. And the churches that are hiring comedians are usually pastored by people that, have a salty past, or,
Yeah.
they understand,
Yeah.
you're not getting a legalistic, I had one of those once, and didn't go well.
Oh,
You know,
I bet.
yeah, the whole church was like, "Why are you here?" We don't. It was that third of people that really have
Yeah.
never been given
Yeah.
permission to laugh.
Who are
We
the
don't
who
laugh at
who are the
church.
comics today that you take like that you really appreciate that make you laugh? Like who are the guys that either you hang around or that you watch from a distance that really inspire you?
I don't watch much comedy anymore. I just because if you're working on something and you hear something, and
Yeah, you
there's
don't want
only
to
like eight
steal.
or nine premises that you can really
Yeah.
talk about and not lose an audience.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I it I during COVID, I started watching Bill Burr. I
Hmm.
used to live in Boston, and again, if there's church people watching Burr's, foul mouthed and angry and whatever. But I
But he's
used to live in.
smart.
I love Boston.
Yeah.
I loved it. I got sober in Boston, and after about a year of sobriety, I told Tammy, if I'm going to stay sober, I got to get out of this city. But to this day, I think the comics. I love the whole attitude. I love the whole vibe, all of it. And so Burr, I found, and
Well, he's
then
really fought back. He's fought back against cancel culture. There's several,
yes,
several pretty big names that have said, man, if you take everything away we're not supposed to say, then comedy ceases
right.
to exist. And
Well, that's it. And again, I
yeah,
said to somebody in an interview recently, I said, I think you're going to see some of the best comedy America's ever produced
yeah,
coming out of this
yeah,
cancel culture.
yeah.
Because 70s, I came
Well,
in the 70s coming off of the 60s mores when they were throwing Lenny Bruce in jail
yeah,
for public. indecency
Mhm.
for language. So America just said, "Nah, man, we're tired of this, and you don't want to go see it, don't go see it." So now you get, and that's why in the pilot that we're shooting for my book, we're going to film it in the '90s. It's going to be a period piece of the '90s, and I wanted that initially, and the showrunner told me, he goes, budget wise, it'll crush us. And then the director came in. He's the guy that directed King and Country, and he came in and said, "No, you got to do it in the '90s." And it won't. He said, "We just did one, a period piece, and it added 5% to the budget. It wasn't much." And I said, for the conversations, we had those conversations back in the '90s about political correctness and the
Yeah.
language, and all the parameters that kept, and it tightened me up. I used to do the generic men do this, women do this. And then all of a sudden women were yelling out, "Why don't you talk about men? Wait, why did you stop talking about women? You're not a woman. You don't know." So I started talking about one woman, her, Tammy. I just
Yeah.
said, so then they would yell at me and I go, "Sorry, you don't get this. You don't get to tell me I can't talk about my wife.
Yeah.
You know what? Shut up." And then I'd look at the man and I'd go, "A real man can control his woman in public." And that would set them off. They'd start fighting. Anyway, I go, "I love it when I can bring people together." So anyway, they would leave the club. But anyway, it was, and getting out of I told the comic, and I'm not going to mention his name because if he doesn't pick it up, then I'll look embarrassed. But when I gave him the script, I said, "Understand this, man. This was about the time you were born. This was going on with comedy. You'd have to get out of the car in the rain with quarters to get on a payphone to call a club to get directions because you're
That's right.
lost."
That's right.
Yeah, it's not as simple as
Yeah.
going, "Siri, call, comedy
Yeah.
catch,"
Oh yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, I
so
remember those days. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Wow.
and
Well,
that'll be fun.
yeah. Well, man, it seems like you've got so many great opportunities still ahead of you. I mean, when you're even talking about, a couple more years, I'm just thinking, sounds like you're in your prime to me, but I just I enjoyed, hanging out with you a couple of months ago and seeing your set, and I hope we get to do that again. And
Oh yeah,
um, I think that for again, so many people that listen to this podcast, it's I think one of the great things people take away from this is how do we finish? How are these people that I've watched and listened to and appreciated for so long, how are they finishing? And I think that your story is so good that, man, God has just been so kind to you, you know, decade to
yeah,
decade, year to year, moment to moment, that there's an encouragement there for anyone who is, I don't know, is pushing 70 to go,
right.
do I still have anything left to give anymore? And I
Oh,
think you're a great
absolutely.
example that,
Yeah,
man, there's more to do. Just ask God, he'll give you more stuff to do.
absolutely. And it's funny. One of my favorite pastors, I got saved, listened to his tapes. Tommy Nelson from
Hmm.
Denton Bible. Tommy did most people, if they know him, is from Song of Solomon series that he did. But Tommy did a Young Guns program, and he called it Young Guns. He'd mentor these young men for a year. He'd put them to work at the church and just mentored all these young men for years. I run into these guys all over the country because I talk about Tommy from the stage, and they'll go, "I was part of his Young Guns. How
Oh,
you
wow.
doing? Doing great." And Tommy told me, I said, why do you still do it? He goes, "Because when I die, I want a lot of young men carrying my casket. I want to
Hmm.
know I poured into them." And that was his calling,
Yeah.
even though he pastored a church, he's still part of that. But for him, the the more was, I want to, we have things to offer young, especially men today. I mean, they've been beat up by this culture, bombarded with, this BS term, toxic masculinity. I don't even know what that is. But you look at these beta males, and it's frightening to think. I said to some audience one night, I said, "You can you imagine the Titanic today with all these beta males? They'd be stomping on these women to get to those boats. They'd be throwing these women overboard to get on the life rafts." I said, "We weren't raised this way, were we,
Nope.
guys?
Mm-mm.
You go down before the girl goes down, period. You protect the women. You protect the women and the children." That was a mantra.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
I can't imagine living with myself if I didn't. You think of that guy when Trump got the first assassination. He died diving on his wife and kids.
Yeah.
That's how he died. I
Yeah.
mean, if
That's
I
real
gotta
manhood.
go,
Yeah.
if I gotta go, I don't want to
That's
be
right.
shoving my wife out of the way and her taking the bullet. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
I
I
don't know
would
how
not.
you would live with that. Yeah.
You know,
No, there's no way.
how
No.
could you live with you? So
Yeah.
anyway, that's yeah. And Tommy's 70. He's older than I am, so he's 71, 72, and he's still, he's slowed down in the pastoring. I think he's handing it over. But as far as everything else, he gave me a bunch of stuff on Ecclesiastes I was doing online for a while. I want to mention this for your listeners. I don't know how many you have in Nashville, but October 11th, I'm doing a show at the Fisher Center, a big venue. You'll appreciate this because you understand numbers. Huge venue for me, 1,700 seats. I don't know what I was thinking when I asked Chaz to give me a shot. And but Stephen Bargatze, I don't know if you're
Hmm.
familiar with Nate Bargatze,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Stephen's his dad, and
Hmm.
Stephen and I have just become really, really good friends. Played a couple of rounds of golf together, and I love that man. And he's funny, and we're working together. And we just found out that Patricia Heaton is going to MC the show.
Oh, that's great.
She's going to come out, and I'm trying to write her a couple of things that might get a few laughs. But it's Friday, October 11th, 7 o'clock in Nashville. I tell people if you're out of state and you've ever wanted to visit Nashville, October, one of the best times to be there.
Yeah.
It's a Friday night, which means you can stay over Saturday, hit Broadway, hit all of those rooftop bars that they have there. And then Sunday morning, wake up. Nashville has plenty of churches, and you
That's
can
right.
go and cleanse your soul before you get on the airplane. So, but October 11th, please go to the Fisher Center website to get tickets because those ticket brokers, are ripping people off. Um, and I've seen my show; it's not worth $120. It's not.